Hello. So today we are going to be talking about three of my favorite things in the whole wide world. And that's diet, sleep, and exercise. And I don't have a PhD or any other education formally in these subjects, but I do have many years of experimenting with these things on myself and my friends and my family and helping them find what works best for them. And I've also listened to uncountable hours of podcasts and books and studies on these topics. So I have lots to share, and I will summarize all of it in just a few minutes for you here. So the first thing I want to talk about is why taking care of our body takes care of our brain. Second thing is why diet, sleep, and exercise work so well with our evolutionary design. The third thing is why these three things have such an outsized effect on our health and happiness compared to anything else you can do for yourself. So the first thing I want to start by defining is what the brain is. It's essentially an organ responsible for interpreting sense data and coordinating an appropriate response, whether it be through action, inaction, or internal regulation, like heart rate or breathing or something like that. And to perform these actions, it needs a constant supply of nutrients and oxygen, both of which come through the blood. Nutrients I'll come back to later. But basically, it's very important that we get the brain a constant supply of blood so we can have oxygen and nutrients. Keep that in mind. The evolutionary reasoning why diet, sleep, and exercise is so important is this. Our brains developed a system to reward behaviors that increased survival and reproductive success. I'm sure firsthand you've experienced how good it feels to eat food, or if you've had sex, you realize how good that feels and how rewarding it feels. And you can imagine that's because eating enough calories directly increases your chances of survival by not starving to death. Having sex directly increases your chances of reproducing and passing on your genes. So things like that are very rewarded by the brain. Sleep gives you the energy you need to hunt and think properly. Exercise gives you the stamina and endurance you need to hunt and secure calories and food. Diet, of course, gives you the energy and mental materials you need via neurotransmitters to survive and reproduce and hunt and all those things. So evolutionarily, these three things are kind of our bread and butter as far as surviving and thriving. So we can look back and say, okay, we can imagine these three things would be good for us to include in our life. But what if we look at the actual data and say, let's test it. Let's deprive some people of diet, sleep, and exercise, and let's give some people more diet, sleep, and exercise, see what effect it has. Okay, well, diet, to start, I said to come back to the nutrients. Diet is very important for neurotransmitters. Why? Because neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin have to be synthesized from somewhere. What they actually end up coming from is amino acids, which we get through protein. So we eat proteins, you eat a piece of steak, and it goes into your body, your stomach digests it, it extracts the amino acids like L-tyrosine, L-tryptophan, and it synthesizes those into neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. And then they're made into vesicles in our brain, which are released when something triggers them. So you can imagine what would happen if we didn't have a proper diet and we didn't have enough neurotransmitter precursors so that when something good happened, we didn't have what we needed to feel the happiness because we don't have the neurotransmitters available in our brain. So you can imagine why diet would be important for that reason. There's also tons of studies showing that healthy diets, this one right here says healthy diets decrease symptoms of depression by 27.5%. And the other opposite side of that is the Journal of Psychiatric Research fed participants pretty much shitty diets and found they had a 38% increase in depressive symptoms. So the data supports diet being important for happiness. What about sleep? Well, I think sleep might be the most intuitive one. If you've ever had a bad night of sleep, you'll know how crappy and tired you feel the next day. And in my opinion, tiredness is almost the antithesis of happiness. It's just so aversive to me. So sleeping makes you less tired throughout the day. It also is crucial for emotional regulation and storage of traumatic and emotional events. It's kind of the brain's way of getting rid of a lot of the stuff that builds up throughout the day, like adenosine, which again makes you tired. So good sleep is very important for all those reasons. And then of course the studies support this. Poor sleep quality and continued disturbances correlate with heightened anxiety, increased emotional reactivity, and reduced positive affect. Sleeping too short, so less than 6 hours, or too long, more than 9 hours, is linked to increased mortality, or more likely to die young. Inadequate sleep is associated with cognitive decline as you age. Inadequate sleep is associated with poor memory. So if you don't want to be tired, and you don't want to die young, and you don't want to age poorly and get Alzheimer's, sleep is important, is what I'm getting at. Hopefully that's something that is intuitive. But just to reiterate, sleep is very important. And lastly, exercise. Regular exercise reduces symptoms of depression, anxiety, and improves mood through the release of endorphins. Like I said, we have evolutionary systems in place to reward us for behaviors that are conducive with survival. And so when you exercise, your brain releases happy chemicals. Simple as that. However, it's also important for taking care of our body because, like I said, getting proper blood flow to the brain is crucial, as it is a organ that functions on oxygen and nutrients, gets that through blood. So exercise increases blood flow to the brain, very important for brain health. And I think the magical thing about all of these three things is each of them has a positive effect on the others. You know, when you sleep, it's easier to exercise and you're less compulsive, so you diet better. Study for that. When you diet well, you have the neurochemicals you need to feel sleepy when it's time to feel sleepy. When you exercise, you have enough adenosine built up to feel sleepy when it's time to feel sleepy. When you eat good, it's easier to exercise. When you, exercise good, it's easier to sleep. When you sleep good, it's easier to diet and exercise. So all of these things have positive effects on each other, and the same is true in reverse. If you sleep poorly, it's more likely to have a bad diet. If you have a bad diet, it's easier to, skip exercise. So they all kind of have a synergistic effect on one another as well. So each of them, very crucial, very important. So to summarize everything I just said, diet gives your brain the supplies it needs to do its job. Exercise increases blood flow into the brain so you can get those nutrients and oxygen to your brain. Plus it triggers the release of endorphins. And sleep enables you to not be tired, age poorly, and have poor memory. All things that are very, very important to happiness, in my opinion. I'd just like to end on one last thing. Almost everyone I know who has started from a place, including myself, with bad diet, bad sleep, bad exercise, has found it very, very daunting to change your habits, because if you're like me, you will set very high aspirations and you will feel very disappointed when you fall short of those. And it took me a long time to kind of get over that hurdle of being someone who slept poorly, dieted poorly, exercised rarely, to being someone who does all those things often. And the thing that worked for me is just trying to be 1% better than I was yesterday. And if you just take one step at a time, be slightly better. You don't have to start running marathons. You don't have to start eating, broccoli every day. You don't have to start sleeping 8 hours a night every night. Just try to make your habits slightly better every day, and eventually you'll be unrecognizable and much, much happier than you were before. So hopefully that was a good summary. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. And I hope you enjoyed. The next couple of videos are going to be about each thing in more detail, about diet, sleep, and exercise. So I will see you guys soon. All right. Thank you for watching. Bye.